Welcome to another course at Christ Life Training. This is called The Redeemed Earth, Healing the Curse of the Fall. Now, this course is based on the book that I've written, Redeemed Earth, Healing the Curse of the Fall. Not a huge book, but essential for this course. You're going to have to read this book. And then there's a workbook that you have there that's going to correspond with the PowerPoints that we have in it. And so this course is connected to our Understanding Grace series, which we have an A level and a B level, and this is kind of foundational to that, or very foundational to that. And so when we talk about the curse of the fall, we're talking about what affects the cosmos, what affects the world that we're in, not just what affects us as the church, but what affects humanity, men, women, culture, societies. And if we can understand that, then we can understand God's antidote, how that is healed, how the futility, the frustration of the world that we live in is healed. And so we're going to start out with an introduction here. So an introduction to the curse of the fall. And so the curse of the fall. In this course, we're going to look at the antidote to the curses that came into the earth as a result of the fall of man. Now, the curses that came into the earth, the Bible describes as futility. If something is futile, it doesn't work. It's frustrating. So it's instead of a blessing, it's a curse. So it is the power of God's grace that heals the effects of the curse. And God's grace is God's manifest presence in our lives and in our world that can transform our world. God has never had a problem in his world. It's in our world that we have the problem. But God has made a way for us to welcome him into our world so that our world is changed by his presence. And so this is the power of God's grace that heals the effects of the curse. Now, the earth itself was made subject to futility in the hope of the manifestation of God's sons in the earth. And we have verses on this in Romans chapter 8. We're going to begin at verse 18. Paul writes, he said, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Now, I want you to think of Paul's words as not just words to a foundational church in Rome at the first century time of Paul, but foundational in the church that is growing in the generation, including us today. And so the church of the first century and the church of the following centuries to this present day have gone through sufferings for the sake of something of blessing of heaven and the earth. So I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in us. Now we know there's also an aspect of this that has to do with heaven beyond this life. Many people before us went through sufferings, but then they have entered into a place of great reward that's beyond the sufferings of this world. And so there's a truth in that also. So it's both end in the setting of the kingdom of heaven. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. So creation, as we see it, even creation that cannot be seen. Angels are created. The angelic hosts are created beings. The angelic influence of light and darkness, that which is true to its original creation and that which has become twisted from its original creation. All of that is creation. So the earth, as we see it naturally, its inner core, its surface, the heavens and everything around that was created, all of creation is subjected to a futility, and it's waiting for a revealing of the sons of God. For creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him, because of God, who subjected it in hope. So God subjected all of creation to futility in the hope of something, because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. So the children of God manifesting as sons of God, the maturity of sons and daughters of God is the power of God's grace that liberates the earth from its futility. Verse 22, "For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pains together until now." So there's birth pains. In other words, there's something that's destined to be birthed, continually birthed in the earth that is like labor pain. I'm not a woman, but I'm married to one. And I know lots of lots of women who have had babies, and birth pains are not something to take lightly, but they are something that brings about a glorious testimony. And so there's this pain of birth that is meant to birth something great and grand. Not only they, but we also who have the first fruits of the Spirit. Now, that's not us, that's the first century church Paul is talking to. They have the first fruits of the Spirit. Even we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body. And so there's a first fruit church, a first fruit of the Holy Spirit, and we have a portion also given to us of the Spirit that is calling out for more of the redemption of the body, more of the testimony of being the sons and daughters of God, more of the testimony of being the body of Christ that liberates the earth from this futility that God subjected it to. God did not subject the earth to futility because he wanted to curse the earth. God made it difficult so that it can only be healed supernaturally. God made it difficult so only sons and daughters of God can heal it. Sons of men alone cannot heal it. Disconnected human beings, disconnected from God, cannot bring the liberty that the earth calls out for. And so in every generation, the earth is groaning and travailing for something of the sons of God to manifest, and nothing can deliver the earth from its pain of childbirth except the manifestation of sons of God, those who are led by the Spirit of God. So what was the curse that came into the earth at the fall of men? So we have to understand this curse, and we're going to look at this generically, and then we're going to look at it specifically in this course of the redeemed earth, healing the curse of the fall. So in Genesis chapter 3, this is after man chose the knowledge of good and evil. So choosing an administration of the knowledge of being informed instead of intimacy that would empower mankind to be transformed, choosing an external administration over an internal kingdom that would transform us from the inside out, caused the earth to be subjected to futility, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Left man thinking life is about making decisions. The worst thing you can be in life is wrong. Make sure you get lots of information about good and information about bad so that you can choose good, be a good person, live a good life, and do good things. That's how that thinking is. And it gives an external influence of being informed by either law or conscience, things hidden in creation, something from the outside in instead of the inside out. And when that happened, God came and subjected the earth to futility as the result of that decision. And so it looks like this. So the Lord said to the serpent, because you've done this, you are cursed more than all the cattle. So this was the flesh manifestation of the devil in the form of this serpent. So this is a symbol of how this came into the earth. Came into the earth through a disguise of something beautiful, a disguise of something tempting, a disguise of something that touches the vulnerable place to deception. And so because the serpent, the flesh manifestation of the devil, had done this, God speaks to the serpent and he says, you are cursed more than all the cattle, more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, and he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So there's something of the seed of the woman that's going to crush the head of the serpent, but the serpent is going to attack the place of standing of the seed of woman, the heel. So the heel will crush the authority, but then the power of the serpent will strike the heel, constantly bite the heel, bite the place of standing of the seed of the woman. And so this is the first curse of futility that's in the earth. And we'll go through this in detail. So right now I'm just bringing an introduction of what it looks like. And so in the earth, there's something futile concerning there is a force of the enemy, the force of the devil that comes in the form of tempting flesh, deception. There's a deceiver, a devourer, a conflictor in the dry places of the earth. Wherever there's a dry place, there has to be a deception, a devouring, a conflict, a destroyer. So wherever there's a dry place, the serpent is bound to crawl on his belly there. It wasn't the serpent's idea. It isn't the devil's idea. It was God subjected the devil, the serpent, the deceiver, devourer, conflictor to dry places. Wherever there's a dry place, there has to be deception, conflict, devouring. A thief, a killer, a destroyer. There has to be wherever there's a dry place. And then God spoke to the woman, said to the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. That's the second aspect of futility. In the birthing of children, in the reproduction of one generation to the next generation, of something going beyond an individual's life to the greater value beyond that individual's life, there's going to be a pain in conception, actually a worrisomeness, and a pain in birthing. It's going to be a temptation to fear death. It's that kind of pain. And then your desire is going to be for your husband. That's the third aspect of the curse of futility, that a wife's desire would be for her husband, or a human being's desire would be toward another human being instead of toward God. It would be toward a desire to be submerged into the identity of someone else. And then the fourth thing is, he shall rule over you. A husband or a human expression ruling over another human expression is a curse of futility. That's the fourth. Then in Genesis 3, verse 17, then to Adam he said, because you've heeded the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, because you did this, cursed is the ground for your sake. The ground is cursed for your sake. I don't want you to attach to the ground. And so the ground is going to be very difficult for you to attach to. You're going to have to work it. You're going to have to plow it, to till it, but it's going to be a frustration to you because I'm not going to let you attach to it easily, because I don't want you to attach to it easily. I want you to attach to me. So the ground is going to be cursed for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you, things that poke and prick you. You eat of the herb of the field. In other words, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to require your attention. It's going to demand your attention. It's going to be something that makes it so that you are constantly facing circumstances that you have to respond to. This is the curse of futility that's in the earth, that is making it so that it's difficult for you to attach to it. And then in verse 19, the sixth curse of futility, this a sign on the man, is, in the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. So in the sweat of your face, in the sweat of your brow, this is the sixth curse. In other words, there's something in your thinking that's going to be frustrating in your ability to enjoy life, to commune, to break bread. You're not going to be able to just enjoy life because there's going to be something in the sweat of your brow that's going to be a conflict to you. And then the seventh aspect of futility is, for dust you are, to dust you shall return. That's a curse of futility. So when they say from dust you came, to dust you return. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. From dust you came, to dust you return. That is the ultimate nirvana. The ultimate goal is nothing. You were nothing, you returned to nothing. But that is a curse of futility.